Hello, everyone. This is Yami Zerwin from FilmFestivalCircuit.com and the director of the Oregon Documentary Film Festival. Right now, we're gearing up for our fall 2024 screening, which is going to take place on September 29th at the beautiful historic Clinton Street Theater in Portland, Oregon. And in preparation for this festival, we've been talking with some of our participating filmmakers. Today, we're talking with Mikayla Gingrey, who is the director behind Facing the Storm, the Indigenous Response to Climate Change, Episode 1, Mazaska Talks. Mikayla, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Yes, thank you so much. Super excited to be here with you.
So this is a really great film and shows a very unique perspective and insight for climate justice. I want to know, how did you get involved with this group, and how did you come about this story?
Yeah, for sure. Hello everyone. My name is Mikayla Gingrey. I am a filmmaker from Seattle, Washington. We got to rep the Pacific Northwest here.
Absolutely.
So super excited to be here at the Oregon Documentary Film Festival. But I had the unique opportunity to work with Indigenous climate activists through the Equation Campaign, which is a really awesome fellowship that funds different climate justice work from filmmakers to journalists to on the ground workers. And me being first and foremost a filmmaker, I really thought it was a great opportunity to bring this story of climate justice activists to the forefront. When I worked with a lot of the different activists, they talked about how they really struggled to get their story on news streams, like I'm not going to drop names, but basically major cable major cable didn't really want to run these stories. So I said, hey, this is an opportunity for me to create a platform and a spotlight for these really pressing issues for the Indigenous community who are on the front lines for climate justice. And so that's kind of how I got involved in the project. The main person that I worked with was Matt Remley, who is one of the co-founders of Mazaska Talks. He's also an executive producer on the project. And when we came on this project, so this is one episode that is a part of a docu-series. And so we really wanted to look at climate justice, but from a different lens. Oftentimes people see the protests all so important to push the climate justice movement, but we also wanted to take a look behind the scene at different perspectives. And one thing that Matt Remley was super passionate about was the divestment movement and divesting from oil pipelines, because the one way you can stop a pipeline is before it's even built. And how you do that is you stop that money flow before you even get to that oil flow. So that's kind of how I got involved in the project. My mom is a huge climate justice warrior. I'm her daughter, so I feel like it's my place to continue on that legacy in what I do through filmmaking.
That's awesome. I mean, I think you touched on a really important point, something that we like to kind of mention often here at the Oregon Documentary Film Festival is that there are stories that major platforms don't want or have pressured not to show, and you as an independent filmmaker can highlight that, and that's kind of part of the strength of this.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it is really cool how we get to see behind the scenes a lot of the thought process behind, what the messaging is, what the divestment is. In this case, they were talking about Wells Fargo and its relationship to Seattle. I thought that was really interesting. A scene that I really liked, though, is when they're talking about the different roles that people can have in a movement like this. It's not always the people who are right there on the front lines demonstrating. There's all sorts of stuff. He's talking about chefs. He's talking about supporters. He's talking about thinkers. He's been talking about drummers and singers, and that was kind of framed with a lot of great footage on the scene. And I was wondering, what was the filming process like? Because there is footage of demonstrations, and there's lots of footage of different movements like that. What was that aspect like?
Yeah, definitely. That was awesome. I think the major filming day that we had was a divestment movement up on Capitol Hill in
Okay.
Seattle, Washington. And that was really amazing to be there just with the crowds. Because I think there's one thing to like post on social media your support, but when everyone gathers together in person, like it's that feeling of you're not alone, you know? And so I really enjoyed that day. In filmmaking, there's a lot of planning, like you got to focus on the different shots, but from, I think it's that opening sequence when you see everyone marching down
Yeah.
the street. Um, it was cool, and what I kind of wanted to capture, like I just had like my little DGI filmmaking thing, is like showing that we're a part of the movement, like we're walking, like the camera is really supposed to be like you're a part of this too. You know, that's why we're moving around. Like it's not like a super stable shot because it's supposed to be real, and that's like what this whole climate justice movement is about. It's like that grassroots movement. Um, so yeah, I really really love that day. It was super fun getting to capture Matt Remley in his element. There's a shot of him giving a speech to everyone, and everyone got really really fired up. I mean, you have people that are making statements, like they're cutting up their debit cards, their credit cards, like making a
Wow.
statement, because banks don't really respond to anything but money and the bottom line at the end of the day. And so, you know, you got to hit them like in the wallet where it like actually hurts. And like that's when they really actually start to listen. Which it's really funny because Matt told me the story. I think he was in front of Wells Fargo, and like the president of that bank branch was like, what can we do to like make you all like stop coming here? Like you're like making people not want to come into the bank. And it's like, well, what you can do is divest from these oil pipelines. Like it's very
Right.
simple. The ask is simple, the task is doable. And I think that's kind of what we were really trying to put on the forefront. And then some of the other footage that you probably saw was from Standing Rock. I wasn't personally there. Um, I can't recall the year, but I wasn't personally there. But Rachel Heaton, who you see in the film, she's also the co-founder of Mazaska Talks. So that is footage and pictures from Rachel and Matt, who were there during the Standing Rock protest. And yeah, like Matt was talking about his cousin Red Rock, who's actually in another one of the episodes. His wife is a teacher, right? So it's like you have people like on the front lines at Standing Rock protesting. You also have to bring your kids along. There's like no childcare at home. So
Right.
there's people in the movement that are like teaching the kids. You have cooks that are cooking for the people to have like sustain themselves like through that long, hard and important protest. So it was just really cool, I think, to be at least at that one protest. But just
Totally.
knowing that it's like one of many. And that one protest that I was at, there was like a bunch of them throughout the world, like across the United States, and then also over in Europe as well.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I love that, and yeah, I think the energy and the footage is great, and I think the big thing about this documentary that differentiates it from others like it is that there is no opaque curtain. I feel like the reasons and the thoughts behind everything, and just the idea that one could participate and become active in this, it
right.
feels very clear in this, and I love that. I'm curious. I was reading that you seem to have a background in writing quite a bit.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm wondering a little bit about that. I want to hear a little bit about that, but I'm also wondering what got you into making a documentary, and if the disciplines are related for you at all, if there's great differences. What do you think?
For sure. I actually think they are very related.
Okay.
Just for a little bit of my background, I graduated in 2021 from Loyola Marymount University, where I got my bachelor's in screenwriting.
Okay.
Yeah, gotta rep, go Lions. But while I was at LMU, actually, my first internship was at Vulcan Productions, which was a primarily documentary production company in Seattle. It was Paul Allen's company, actually.
Okay.
And that was my first chance to see a window into the documentary world, um, which was really cool for me because myself as a writer, I really write social poignant issues. And I think it's a really way to reach audiences that don't necessarily want to watch a documentary, because sometimes with a documentary, you're like preaching to the choir.
Right.
Where like in my writing, it's kind of like you're slipping the medicine into the applesauce, I like to say. So
Mm,
people are like, I'm going to the movie theater. I'm enjoying this movie. And
right.
then you're like, wait, I learned something. You know what I mean? So it's like a little bit of nuance, but I'm not a very nuanced person. Like I'm very bold and passionate. And so that's why I was drawn really to working on the documentary, because it's bold. It's in your face. It's like I'm here, I'm standing, and you're gonna see me here. You know, like I'm standing on the shoulders of my ancestors. And
Right.
I, oh, that's, I love that. I love that. And furthermore, like connecting it to my writing. Um, so this hat that I'm wearing, I was a TV writer on Beacon 23. I wrote my very first episode of television. It's a science
Excellent.
fiction, thank you. It's a science fiction psychological thriller. It aired in May of 2024. And so it was amazing. Like my dream was to be a TV writer, and now I'm a documentary filmmaker. It's like the best of both worlds. Like I love what I do. Um, and I promise it's going to connect. But basically, through writing the script for Beacon 23, there was so many drafts of the one script, right? Like there was, I think for that one, there was like 20 drafts of what we were working with. And it's really beautiful to see the storytelling that happens from draft 1 to draft 20, the
Hmm.
storytelling that happens when you film day of, you know, you got your week of filming, and then the storytelling that happens in the post-production process. And that's what I really found helpful for me when I worked on this documentary, because like we would have like, okay, so this is like a 15-minute episode. Each of the interviews were at least 2 hours long,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So like how do you go from like 4 hours of information to like 15 minutes? It sounds almost impossible,
Right.
but it's not, because the storytelling happens in the editing room. And
Hmm.
so I feel like I was really able to pull some of that story structure that I got from my screenwriting background and really weave it in. And like as a screenwriter, like you can't be married to that one.
Right.
Like it's just not going to happen. And I think that flexibility that I had from screenwriting allowed me to have that flexibility when it came to like the editing process. Like we would have one opening, I loved it, and then I'd sleep on it, and I'm like, I don't like it. But not that I don't like it, but I'm like, let's try something else.
Right.
And you know, it's just like that collaborative process that's super, like I worked very close with my editor. I worked very close with Matt Remley, the executive producer, and my mom, who's an executive producer on the project as well, Mikayla Gingrey. And it was just cool. You know, it was like as if I was in a writer's room, but it was an editor's room.
Wow.
But we were still writing that story,
Right.
editing. So yeah, I think they're totally linked. And it was really awesome to be a part of.
Wow, that's fantastic insight. Very interesting to hear how these things are interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, that's awesome because a lot of independent filmmakers are working on, at least if not primarily, at least they're seeing multiple ends of stuff. You're working in all the different roles, and a lot of people have to wear many hats. But kind of
Yes.
to
Anyhow,
emphasize how things are really decidedly related to make the best thing that you can. I mean, it's great. That's so cool to hear that that experience with the screenplay and having to just chop, whatever doesn't work can take you
right.
all the way to the post production. That's
Exactly.
great. Well, tell me,
Exactly.
what did you learn from this process then, as one of many film efforts you've done? What did you take away from this one?
Oh my goodness. I learned so much from this process. It's very funny because this was supposed to be a 1 year process, and it turned into 2 years because like the story was just that rich.
Right.
Um, and I think what I learned the most is the ability to let the artwork speak for itself. I really think that was the key thing, because you come in and you're like, okay, we're going to talk about divestment. All right, like what does divestment mean? Like you bullet pointed out, you're like, this is what we're going to do. And then you sit and you're like, so hold on, let me back up a little bit. So part of my process before even jumping into like the official interviews was to do a pre-interview with each of the
Okay.
person that I met with. And it wasn't really necessarily an interview. It was just like a chance to like connect and like get to know the people, what drives them, what motivates them, and get to know their families, right? And so basically, I had the chance to meet with so many different people. I had so many different notes. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Scandal, but where they have like that master board of
Oh,
everything,
right.
got the lines
Okay,
connected.
totally.
That's
Yeah.
what my kitchen table looked like. And I was just like, I don't even know like where to go with this. And then my mom was like, okay, like I think, well, number one, my mom was like, can you please clean the kitchen table?
Step one.
She was like, can we clean the kitchen table? And I was like, no, it's artwork right there. But I just had to let that sit. Honestly, I let that sit there for a week, which is like hard in filmmaking because there's deadlines and it's like
Right.
we need to go to filming. But like I pumped the brakes. I said no, like I need to like listen to the words, listen to the art, and like really like once I just sat there and looked at it, it formed itself. So I realized that as a director, like you don't necessarily have to be like, I want this and only this. Like
Right.
I learned that you have to really keep your mind open, your eyes open, and take your time to just like really connect, I think, and like listen to what the people are saying. Because people
Totally.
say one thing, right? But then there's something underneath it, or there's like underlying themes like within it. Like we're talking about divestment, but the theme was family. And you're like, family, divestment, like how do those two connect?
Right.
Like the reason people are doing that divestment work is for their family. So is the story about divestment or is the story about family? So, and like once you like find that heart, it becomes something so different. And I think that's what I learned the most from it. That was like completely new for me, honestly.
Wow. I mean, that's fantastic insight.
Yeah.
Letting the work speak for itself, but also to you. Yeah, yeah. Taking the time to really think about what does this mean? A lot of people have the documentary that they want to make and they think they're going to be able to make, and a lot of people make it regardless. They'll
Right.
keep it in the box that they want, but it's cool to take the time to really listen and figure out what it's about on its own. Oh,
Exactly.
that's great. I mean, this is all stuff I'm gonna share with people. These are all insights that I have to relate to people. This is great. Now I feel like an expert personally.
Okay.
From
Great. Wonderful. Yeah.
well, this is great. Well, tell me, Mikayla, what are you working on now? Do you have more episodes? I know there's an episode 2. Do you have more
Yeah.
coming out in this series or anything else?
It's really awesome. So this was like a 5-part mini docu-series.
Okay, nice.
Literally just yesterday. Timing, crazy. We just like had like everything's done.
Oh,
Like it's
wow.
in the can, like it's like being made and everything. So right now, we're trying to get it on the Seattle channel. Like we're talking to PBS. So like now it's really awesome because we get to like just see it go out into the
Totally.
world. And the thing that I think is most inspiring about where we are is now we're building a curriculum behind the episodes. And so in Washington State, we have a time immemorial program where basically it's embedding native traditional knowledge into the public school system. And it's very exciting because most
Wow.
recently, the series got greenlighted to be embedded in that curriculum. So it's like just amazing to think that K through 12 are going to be able to like watch these films, build assignments behind it. But it's not even about the assignments, but it's just like get excited.
Yeah.
They talk to their family members and they want to get out doing it. Like one of the last episodes that we did was a youth activist episode. And so like I think that's going to be super special because kids will be able to see themselves and be like,
Right.
oh, I can, like, this isn't just for adults. You know what I mean? Like, I can do this now. And so that's where we are in this process.
Wow, that's so awesome. That's
Yeah.
incredible. So you get to wait and see these things expand into so many different arenas and
Exactly.
venues. That's so cool. Wow.
Thank you.
Okay. And it's going to be a part of the curriculum. That's so fascinating. I've
Right?
never talked with anyone who has had that coming up. That's so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited because, like, that's at the end of the day, like, why I do film. Like, it's not just because it's like, oh, this is a cool film. It's
Right.
because, like, oh, I want it to lead to some form of action and inspiring young people. I don't know. I think that's the biggest action that could
That's
ever
so
happen.
cool. Wow. Well, Michaela, thank you so much for talking with me today. It was so nice talking with a real expert on the craft because I just learned so much. And yeah, what an inspiring, exciting movie. Really, I think yeah, it's gonna work great in curriculum because it got me passionate about it, made me feel like I could do something.
I
And
love
people are
it.
absolutely gonna love it at the Oregon Documentary Film Festival on September 29th. This is repping the PNW, and
Yes.
we have such a strong filmmaking community here. It's nice to see people keeping the tradition alive. So, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was so awesome talking with you, and I can't wait to show this film and share it with you all at the festival.
Excellent. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.